Hey everybody, Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of YFP Planning's fee-only certified financial planners. Before we jump into today's question, I will give a shout out to YFP Planning's incredible team that makes this segment possible. YFP Planning offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning that is customized to the pharmacy professional. You can learn more about those services and book a free discovery call by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from a presentation that we recently did. And the question is, I already own a home. What's the best way to begin buying and selling additional real estate properties? Tim, I think this question is an interesting one in that we hear often from pharmacists in our community, obviously planning clients as well. You know, they get through that home purchase, they feel like they're in a good place. Perhaps they're making good momentum on contributing or maxing out some of those traditional retirement accounts. And the question comes up of like, what else? You know, I've heard about real estate. You know, I've got maybe a loose understanding of the opportunities that are out there. Maybe it aligns with me in terms of risk tolerance. Maybe it doesn't. Or I'm just open to really learning more about the opportunities that are available to see what might or might not be a good fit. So what are your initial thoughts on kind of the spectrum of real estate investing opportunities that are out there and how folks may go about evaluating these further?
Yeah, I think kind of taking a step back and the way that I would answer this question is with a question is like what are your goals, right? So what are you interested in? What are you trying to accomplish? So there's a variety of ways that you can invest in real estate. So it could be on the end of the spectrum. When we invest dollars in our client portfolios, a portion of that is in an ETF, exchange traded fund that is in real estate, a real estate investment trust. So that is probably one of the most passive ways to own real estate. It typically doesn't necessarily have a lot of the benefits of owning real estate that you hear and read about. But that's one way to do it. I mean, you can also be more passive by giving money to a syndication where they're going to invest it for you in a $100 million process. It could be something like a crowdfunding that you're doing it. But then you can kind of go more where on the other side of the spectrum you are the landlord, right? So Shay and I have a property in Baltimore when we moved there that we are the landlords. We have tenants. We're dealing with maintenance issues. We had to put on a new roof on recently, which wasn't fun. We have water problems, all that kind of stuff. So that's more of the active side. But you typically see more of the benefits of owning real estate in terms of some of the tax advantages and owning that property. You see the appreciation of that property. You're receiving income as that a property appreciates. And then you kind of have like the middle area, which could be things like hard money lending. So, you act as a bank to an investor. You are maybe you're house hacking. So, hey, I bought a house. It has 3 bedrooms. I'm renting out a bedroom, to basically pay for part of the mortgage. It could be something like a fix and flip. You can get into commercial, all this stuff. Shay and I, one of our goals with the motorhome, because we pay a lot of money to store, is almost to like house hack or storage hack the motorhome. So a commercial property. And she actually just called me yesterday as I was leaving work. She's like, I think I found a good opportunity, which I love this about her, and she's telling me about the property and what we could do and grow into it and all that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot of different flavors to real estate, which I think makes it exciting. I think what people really need to figure out is just like where on the spectrum do their interests or their risk tolerance, their time, what does it allow? Another one that I didn't even mention was like wholesaling. So you're basically finding deals, matching buyers with sellers and kind of getting a finder's fee, so to speak, for that. So to find like your flavor, sometimes we talk about real estate and people get really jacked up and like, yeah, I really want to try this. Sometimes we talk about real estate and it's like, that doesn't sound great. None of that sounds really great. So maybe I'll just keep it in my portfolio and keep it pretty simple. But I think that's the beauty of real estate in terms of, how you approach it.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons I was glad this question came forward, to your point, is there's so many different ways we can do this if we're interested. And, I think that we often have a specific idea in mind, right? When I first learned about real estate investing, thought came to mind of, some of the things I had heard, right, growing up,
Yeah.
like, oh man, who wants to be, changing, fixing toilets at 3 a.m.
Right.
and,
Right.
doing those kinds of things, acting as a landlord and a property manager. But obviously that's one example, and there's systems and things you can build to help mitigate that, both time and some of the financial risks. But I think what's so cool about it, and David and Nate, a shout out to them, co-hosts of the YFP Real Estate Investing Podcast that publishes each Saturday. They're now 78 episodes into that show, which is really cool. But it is story after story after story of pharmacists that are investing in real estate in a variety of ways: passive, active, buy and hold, fix and flip, short-term rentals. I remember there's a story of a couple who owned a motel, some that own one property, some that own 50 plus units, some that are very active in the rehab construction, others that, wouldn't swing a hammer like you or I shouldn't be swinging a hammer.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there are just so many ways. And these are other pharmacists. And when I hear someone ask, where should I get started? My first thought is like, man, just absorb as much as you can of what is out there in terms of the options, and then connecting with other people that are investing to learn more and pick their mind of, what's working, what's not working. What do you like? What did you learn when you get started? What have some of the challenges been? What does this look like in the current market? And I think that's what's so cool about when you think about pharmacy and real estate investing, like niche of niche, right? But it is a super small community where I know from talking with David and Nate, a lot of these folks are connecting with one another, which is awesome. Yep. So whether they're in your area or not, I sense many of them are approachable. So I think just learning as much as you possibly can, that podcast and resource is a great way to do so. And then obviously engaging with your planner, looking at how this fits in, with the rest of the financial plan, and determining what is the best fit, for you going forward. So great question. I think reminder of the work that's being done on the YFP Real Estate Investing Podcast, and really just some really cool things of, pharmacists all across the country that are dabbling in this in very different ways. So thanks again for this question that was submitted as a part of a recent presentation that we did. If you have a question that you'd like to have featured on the show, two ways that you can send us a question. Number one, you can email us info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. You can also record your question by going to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask-YFP. And as we wrap up this week's episode, an important reminder that the content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. For more information on this, you can visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your week.